we invest in what we believe is valuable and we spend money on what we believe is valuable. Most people don't spend money on themselves in the way to improve themselves because the real fucking truth is that they don't believe that they're fucking valuable enough to do that. If you're running a company and you don't believe that you're the most valuable asset in the company, your business is fucked because it's always going to be a direct reflection of how you operate.
It's fair to say that people come from all walks of life. We're all cut from a different piece of cloth. But every so often, and maybe this is you, there's that person born with a heartbeat that tells them they're striving to climb it to the top of the mountain. And so whatever their endeavor it is, whether it's setting up a business or pursuing a career, these people have a particular type of drive. But the problem with that drive is when you don't achieve the things that the blueprint in your mind tell you that you should be achieving, you're met with a tremendous amount of frustration. That enthusiasm that you had wanes, and some people enter even a spiral of deep depression. And so in this episode, my guest today is the ultimate performance coach for that person who has that inspiring ambition to realize and become the person who their blueprint in their mind holds them up to be. So whether you're running a business, whether you're running a trade business, entrepreneurial type of business, or even if you're just growing yourself personally, my next guest, Michael Johnson, aka Michael Mojo, is one of Australia's and becoming one of the world's best coaches for that type of person. And so welcome, Michael, to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. You mentioned all walks of life. I don't know that I've so much walked. I think I've crawled for a long, long time and then ran. That's about it.
So all walks, crawls, and whatever method you got there in life. Michael, before we kick this podcast off, what do you think the viewers need to know about you?
Oh, that's a tough question. Where do you want me to start? And I'm just hungry to see what I can squeeze out of life. I think way too many people waste their life. Way too many people spend too much time overthinking, overstressed, overanalyzing, and not enough time just getting shit done. And I think for the driven people out there, and by the way, my community is called the Driven Mofos. For the driven people out there, they're hungry, they want to achieve, they want to squeeze the most out of life, and they're the people I like hanging out with. They're the people I like working with. They're all just driven and super ambitious and things like that. So I work with those types of people. A lot of the people that I've worked with in the past have been, rich listers, professional athletes, mums and dads who want more out of life, who want the best for their kids, but also a lot of, we come across like a lot of trade-based or small-based businesses as well. They might even be in healthcare and things like that, but they really just have a desire and a hunger to want to grow, to be the best that they can be, and maximize growth. They're actually really hungry for growth. They're the people I like working with.
And so it sounds to me like your clientele is a metaphor for what you're trying to do as well.
Yeah.
In your own life.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah, I would be what average people call an overworker. I get told I work too much. I get told all the time that I need to have holidays, but I don't really want holidays. And I find that if I sat on the couch for too long, my brain kicks in and tells me that I got too much shit to do. So I get back up and I get cracking again. So I think my community is a reflection of that. There's a percentage of the population, the 5%ers, that I think they sit on the couch for an hour or two and then their brain goes, you got shit to do, get up and get it done.
Yeah.
They're my type of people. They're the people who they do well in business and they go, yeah, but I want more. For them, it's uncommon being around people like themselves. It's not in my community, but it's uncommon for them to be around those types of people. In my community, that's completely normal.
And so what you're saying is often these people would feel a bit like a square peg fitting into a round hole.
Yeah.
Is that what
something
you mean?
like that. I would definitely say something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, got it. So, Michael, let's start at the beginning. Let's think for a minute. We're running a business. We have we start in business because we have a vision of where we can take this business. We have a vision of what we can become and what that business can give us in terms of our lifestyle. And so for many people, they get involved in their business for that reason. They kick off, they score a few goals, but then they start to hit some obstacles. And it's at this point in time at which, people, I suppose, disqualify themselves. They go, oh, this is all too hard. I can't do this. I'll go back to a 9 to 5 and play it safe. What is it, do you think, about the people in that group who choose to go, no, I'm going to keep going?
Yeah, so it was like me when I was a kid. I got told that I had to act and behave a certain way, but I knew that I didn't want to act and behave that way. So I was a bit of a rebel. I think the community are a little bit of rebels. They're a bit of an outcast. They're probably the black sheep of their family. They're probably the black sheep of society, but they're just hungry and they're driven. They want more. I also think that they are consistently internally conflicted with themselves. So I think most of us and most people in society have been told a bunch of lies, essentially, like, the goal of life is to be happy. Well, if you go and study Confucius and the great philosophers, they say that it's the chasing of happiness that makes us unhappy. So most people chase the wrong things. They chase comfort and they chase ease. But at the same time, those driven people, if you try to get comfortable, you just start self-sabotaging and self-destructing. So I've been and have worked with a lot of business owners and I've been with business owners and around people that are driven for a long, long time. The moment that they start to achieve things and they get too comfortable, they just start self-destructing. So they start overeating and they get fat and then they hate themselves. They start taking drugs and running amok. They start partying. They start, spending time with people that they shouldn't spend time with, and they self-destruct because they like working hard. And so if they can't find the next thing to work hard for and they're not pushing to that next level of growth, they will self-destruct, destroy everything that they've created so that they can go again because they actually love the work. And so I come along and I try to train these people that people like me, we've been lied to our whole lives. The goal is not to be comfortable. The goal isn't to have an easy life. The goal is to keep chasing the shit that inspires you, that gets you out of bed every morning because you're a hungry person. And yeah, you'll have times where you want to relax a little bit. And yeah, you might want to fly business class. You might want to go on a nice holiday. But even when you're on a holiday, you'll still be thinking about work. And that's okay. For the average person, the 90%ers, the 95%ers, that's completely irrational. But for the 5%ers, I go on holiday, I think about work. I get up in the morning, I do a little bit of work, and then I go and have fun for the rest of the day. There are people like me out there, but we're the 5%ers. So what I try to do consistently is break that mold and make them understand that it's okay. Because if you don't understand that it's okay, you're going to get to a place where you achieve everything that you want and you're going to be miserable, feel lost, feel hollow, feel empty, and you're going to self-destruct again so that then you've got shit to do. So I'd rather just keep doing stuff that I enjoy doing.
And keep the trajectory going forward. To your point, and I think this is a valuable one, I think if we could really put some wordings around what you just said, I think it would be best summarized by people optimize for happiness, yet it's impossible to be eternally happy. And what people should do is optimize for productivity. And by virtue of optimizing for productivity, they will gain happiness. Is that it in a nutshell?
I don't even know that happiness is the metric. Yeah, something that happened this morning. I've just, as you know, I just did a big US trip, got back, hit the ground running again, and I've just been chasing my tail. But the growth is going like this, and I'm chasing it. And so this morning I woke up and I was like, I'm exhausted. I just need to back off. And then when I thought about it, I thought all great breakthroughs happen when you push through your own limitations. And right now my limiter is kicking in and it's going, you're doing too much. You've done enough. You need some rest. You need time to relax. And when I really thought about it, I thought, you know what, fuck it. I need to push into it harder, which almost seems counterintuitive. But for the driven people out there, the things that are counterintuitive to most people in society are actually the things that work for us. So working hard works well for me. I personally think that empty space in a calendar is a person's most destructive time. Because the 5%ers out there, if you have nothing to do, you will self-destruct. You're going to do something stupid. You're right on the borderline of doing something stupid. So just fill up your calendar and keep pushing. So for me personally, I think that happiness is just such a shit metric for life. I think it's an average person metric. And to be honest,
you're not saying being unhappy is being happy is a bad thing, though.
I'm not saying happiness or unhappiness is even a metric that we should worry about.
Right.
You know,
it's just a thing.
Yeah, it's just a thing, right? Like I know that when I drive my car, if I get in the car all the time and I'm worried about the wear on my tires, and as I'm driving along, I'm going, oh shit, is the tire wearing? Or maybe I need to, then you're thinking about the wrong thing. Just think about driving. I don't think about happiness. I don't wake up in the morning and go, oh, I'm unhappy. Oh, now I'm happy. I don't even think about it because it's just a shitty metric. I think our emotions are a shitty metric for life. And if you go and study all the great philosophers and the greatest scientists in history, they tend to do a lot of uncomfortable things to push and progress themselves, which is what makes them great.
Sure.
Athletes do the same thing. Great business owners do the same thing. I think that they're driven by something deeper and something more, which is the progression, it's the progress, it's the achievement, it's the outcome, it's the making the difference. But you've got to go through shit in order to be able to do that. What I believe, and this has come from 41 years of soul searching and learning and trying to figure shit out about life, I honestly believe that progress is what makes someone fulfilled. Mm-hmm. If you have the same problems in a year that you have now, you're going to hate life. You're going to feel hollow and empty. Sure. And it doesn't matter what level you're at. So progress is the important part. Movement is the most important part. So if we keep moving and we keep progressing, that's great. I think just some lies that we get told, right? Like, I mean, my parents.
Are they lies or are they just our distortions of the truth?
I think they're just misunderstandings. You know, like everyone's trying to figure out what life's about. And I don't think that there's a clearly defined answer. I think some of the great philosophers and the great scientists have some great answers. But I think we get told things like, if we're comfortable, then we're successful. But I've never met someone who is comfortable and successful for long periods of time. You'll go through stages where you feel successful and then you'll feel unsuccessful and then you feel successful. And then if we take laws of nature, in nature it says we either grow or die. If you have a look at what creates growth, it's stress. And then we have two types of stress. We have distress and eustress. We need to have self-controlled stress consistently, and progress allows us to do that. That creates growth. So growth is a great thing in life. Then we have pressure, creates expansion. Everything in the universe is expanding or contracting. So if we don't have pressure and we don't have stress, we're not growing and expanding. I think
simple story of why going to the gym makes sense.
100%. You got to push yourself beyond where your comfort zone is right now. Yeah, you want to be comfortable for a short period of time, but here's what's going to happen. You're going to go through a stage of discomfort. Then you're going to find your new level of comfort. And just to sort of summarize as well, and I know this is probably way off track, but there's a philosopher called Vygotsky, and he stated, he postulated this idea of something called a noosphere. And what he said is that we have levels of intelligence that are these spheres of growth. I believe that everything in life is just a level. So we have level 1 problems, we have level 1 stresses, and then we have level 1 outcomes or achievements. So even working with someone, and I've been the private coach to people that have made billions, even when you work with those people, they have financial stress. Now, the person who has the $30 financial stress because they can't pay their phone bill, they wish that they had billions because they think that the $1 billion or the money or the millions gets rid of the stress, and it doesn't. They might have level 400 stress because if they fuck up, they now
consequences of it is more significant.
100%. They've got to go now and fire 400, 500, 600, 1,000 people.
Yeah.
So the stresses just change, but we become better. So I think the purpose of life is the progression of our own character in order to go to new levels and consistently excel. And that's where fulfillment comes in. It's that progression, the progress, it's the momentum, it's those things. I think that our emotions, and if I won't get into neuroscience, but if you look at basic neuroscience, the parts of the brain that deal with our emotions are the lower levels of intelligence versus the higher levels of intelligence, which is known as the executive functions. In the executive functions, we learn to control our emotions. And all progress has a balance of both pleasure and pain, just like the gym, right? Gym is great, but it also sucks at the same time. That's where maximum progress happens. So
I think
it's through those levels.
What you're trying to say is the goal is actually to choose your pain of choice and enjoy the journey in the process.
100%. You have to enjoy the progress through the struggles, through the challenges. And it's just a matter of reframing. We spoke earlier about reframing. We have to reframe the idea of what it actually takes to be successful. And I think that too many people out there hang out with their friends and their family that they grew up with, and they think the same way and they reinforce the same patterns. But the people that I work with sit and have those conversations with friends and family who say you work too much, you're pushing too hard, you don't spend enough time with friends, you don't spend enough time with family. But they're talking to someone who's the 5%er, that are hungry, that are ambitious, that are driven, that want more in life, that know they have a sense of missingness, that they want to go out and achieve more. But at the same time, they want to be inspired to take on those challenges. And sometimes driven people can push too hard, which then takes away their fulfillment. Or on the other side, they can do not enough, which then takes away their fulfillment. It's a fine line.
So, and I want to circle back to that person in business. Maybe they're running a plumbing business or a Sparky, or perhaps they're running an online business, and they're working hard, but somehow they're stuck. Their ambition does not match where they're at today. And so they start to become a little bit, I don't know, for want of a better term, traumatized, disillusioned, that loud voice in their head that tells them, why are they doing this? Or perhaps their best mate's going, why are you doing this? Only permeates that feeling. Whereas in my experience, as things get darker, one really has to become excited, because that darkness propels us if we become uncomfortable with it enough to take action. And the moment we take action, we start to see significant change. But the problem is, I feel with a lot of people, is that they always, the moment that they are pushed into discomfort, their North Star becomes, let me default back to that place of comfort.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? It's why we see people in bushfire ravaged zones in the world, where every few years there's this bushfire that comes through and burns down all the houses. And these people, after the fire's gone and they come and inspect the charred remains of their properties, their first thought is, I'm going to rebuild in the same spot.
100%. Yeah.
Or same thing goes for a flooded community. I'm going to go and rebuild in the same spot. Instead of thinking, well, why don't I take all that I have, all the values of living in this community, and go and find a better community within which to dwell, within a place to build a new home that's not in the firing line of bushfire zone or flood zone. And I think that's a great metaphor for people who continuously find themselves dealing with the same problems over and over and over again. It's often this thought of, I'm going to return back to the place of comfort instead of pushing through, as you're talking about, sustaining that resistance and growing as a result. So let's circle back to this business owner who feels somewhat frustrated with what's actually going on in their business at the moment.
Yep.
They're inspired by their thoughts, but they're looking around themselves and developing self-doubt, going, hey, you've got these big tickets, big ideas of what you want to achieve, but look, you're struggling to pay your electricity bill on time, or, your phone's about to get disconnected. What do you think is the turning point for people who can propel themselves out of that and enter this lane of success or accomplishment or productivity?
Yeah. There's a few ways that I can break that down and directions we can go. The first one, though, is that I have a framework that I use, and this is my framework that I developed from working with tens of thousands of people. It is clarity times by standards plus environment equals success. So the first thing is that without clarity, you will not have standards. Your standards will drop. And so what happens is most people that are driven and ambitious and want to achieve in business, they will start and they'll go really, really hard. And their first priority is let's get out of pain. Let's create enough cash flow. Let's build a team, because then things should get easier and I should free up my time and then everything will run great. It never works like that though.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned the North Star. They don't know what that North Star looks like. Most of them are driven by pain. So in psychology, they talk about the two key drivers of all humans are pleasure and pain.
Mm-hmm.
Partially true. There is one in the center that's called inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
And inspiration is a balance of both pleasure and pain.
Mm-hmm.
So when we do things that inspire us, like I love going to the gym. I go to the gym and it sucks. Every day it sucks because it hurts. It's painful, but I fucking love it. That is inspiration. So when we can become inspired in our business because we have clarity around what we want, what the business looks like, what are the people that we need to hire around us, what are the systems, the processes, and infrastructure we need to put in, how do we manage things effectively in the business? Now, because we've got that clarity, the standards within the business increase, but also the standard within the owner's life increase also. Without that clarity, immediately they'll push hard. Business starts moving in a direction. They start to lack clarity again because you start getting a bit more chaos, and all of a sudden, bang, standards drop again. And then they never move to the environment. And the environment is that their environment is, we could call it environment by default, just like most businesses have values by default, or they have a vision by default. It's not actually the owner sitting down and getting clarity around these things. It's just everything is just a default. I would say that the majority of business owners, driven business owners that I come across, are erratic. They are tired. They are burnt out. They are stressed out. They are frustrated. When you mentioned before, you were like, they're feeling a bit lost and whatever. The word that I come across most is that I'm frustrated as fuck, or I'm tired as fuck. It normally has as fuck on the end. But that's just because they don't have that clarity.
I'm as rich as fuck.
Definitely not I'm as rich as fuck. They have times where they're rich as fuck, but because they don't have clarity, they go out and they blow the cash on growth strategies that they're not actually even sure about what they should deliver. And so some of them will go out and buy new plant and equipment, and then they go, oh shit, we don't have enough work. And then they skits out, and then they're running around and they put too much pressure on staff. Then the staff implode. Then they have higher turnover, and then it becomes more stressful for them. And so they're just in this zone of consistent confusion, chaos, stress, frustration, burnout. And then when things start going well, they go, oh, cool. They take their foot off the gas again instead of driving hard towards that next level.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a consistent pattern.
So, you talk about this frustration. You talk about the pain.
Yes.
You talk about the confusion. It strikes me that a lot of people, as odd, because a lot of people focus on those things. They seem to be the results of those things seem to be their inputs that they're responding to, instead of taking a step back and determining, how am I thinking? And I think that for people who want to move forward, who find themselves in this spot of being stuck and frustrated and whatever as fuck, they tend not to analyze the way they think, their attitude, their perspectives. They almost become this reactive person to their emotions. Now, my personal opinion is emotions can be good things, but they're not commands to react to. Often they're just a signal about something that may not be right, that needs to be attended to.
Yes.
So we don't want to live an emotionless life, but we don't want to be reactive to every emotion that we feel.
Yeah.
Is that really what?
Yeah.
Is that the sort of essence of what your message is to your people?
Yeah. So you were talking just there, you mentioned like these business owners or whatever that aren't aware of their emotions, or they're not aware of what's going on inside their head, or they don't have that clarity about their own psychology. What I would call that is dumb as fuck. So there are a lot of people out there who are dumb as fuck as business owners. And I know some people are going to get pissed off about this, but when you're dumb as fuck, you blame everything outside of yourself for why you feel like shit. When you become smarter, you realize that you can have chaos around you. So it's the old yin yang philosophy, right? And you mentioned about, this external world or these challenges that are happening. The external world can be dark, but the light is on within your own head because you have clarity, you know what to focus on. And that's how great leadership works. A lot of smaller business owners, they will just hire people because they go, I think that person can do the job. And I hired my sister Sally because she can do finance and she sort of did some books for another business. And so they just surround themselves with people that are either unqualified or they haven't trained or they haven't developed. And then they just find themselves in this outer world that's dark. The only way out of that is to drop back to that framework, right? That if standards drop, clarity has to go up. So when the external world is dark, you need to have greater clarity in the internal world so that the light's on in there. And then now your job as a leader is to make the external world dark. To make the external world light.
Right. Yeah.
I remember when I was younger in my businesses and staff would come in with problems. I would get frustrated at them. I would be erratic because I'm changing my mind all the time. Things wouldn't work. And then I'd jump into this next idea or try to start another business. And that's what so many smaller business owners do. They think, well, if my business isn't working now, then I'll just start another business or I'll start a third or a fourth.
Or develop a different offer or whatever.
Yep. Or I'm going to fire those 3 people today because they can't do their job. The thing is, you haven't onboarded them, you haven't trained them, you haven't developed them, you haven't brought them into the culture. And if you do have a culture, it is absolute dog shit, which is the reason why you're stressed and struggling. So clarity is the most important thing. But in order to have clarity, you have to focus on what happens inside your head. Because there was I think it was Epictetus, the philosopher, said that the external world is a mirror of what happens inside our own mind. Now, again, those people that are dumb as fuck, they sit there and they go, oh, well, that's bullshit. Good. Keep living your dog shit life. When you can sit there and you go, okay, my staff, I'm blaming them for being undisciplined. Okay, where am I undisciplined? Oh, yeah, shit. I missed that gym session yesterday. Oh, actually, sorry, I had takeaway. Fuck, I'm undisciplined with my finances. Shit, I didn't onboard people. Oh, crap. Yeah, okay, I'm undisciplined. Then you tighten that shit up. When you tighten that shit up, your staff will tighten their stuff up. So if we use that mirror effect from Epictetus, I believe it was Epictetus, the philosopher, if we see our business and our life as a reflection of our own inner self, if our staff like clarity, it's because we haven't given them clarity. And normally if we haven't given them clarity, it's because we haven't spent the time to get clear, whether it's marketing, branding, sales, finances, whatever department in the business. You have to have clarity. That's what leadership is. Leadership is when everyone comes in and they go, shit, the ship is sinking. And you go, hey, just calm down, just relax, sit down. Okay, let's breathe. Let's figure it out. What's the problem? Let's work through this. You delegate responsibilities, you create accountabilities, and then we get back to work. That's what a great leader does. Bad leaders, chaotic, they're the ones, their team are working and they run in the office and they're like, hey, I need you to do this. Shit, that's happening. Fucking hell. And they're skitzing everyone else out. And that's why a lot of small business owners, you'll find that the business runs more effective when they're not there than when they are there because they're creating too much chaos.
I think one of the things that you just said that really should strike a chord with people, and it certainly did with me, is that if you respond to external things all the time and you admonish responsibility by blaming the outside world, you take away the biggest lever and the most advantageous lever or tool that you have in your toolkit to evoke the change to get to the outcome that you want. Because when it's all about what happens in the external world, you can't control what people think, what people do, what people do, blah, blah. But the one thing you can control is you and how you think. And I think that is a lesson that's often overlooked by people, to take responsibility for everything, even if it's not your fault. Take responsibility because you empower yourself to create change. And when you create change, people will follow and mimic your behavior. Do you
100%.
subscribe to that?
Yeah, totally. Only recently, I was working with a person who was running a sales team, and he said, my sales team are undisciplined. And I said, where are you undisciplined? And he said, he went on this big rant, sales team aren't putting in their notes and all of that sort of stuff. And I just said to him, where are you undisciplined? He said, I'm not. I'm completely disciplined. Now, that is what you're talking about, right? It's the inability to see the mirror effect at play. And what he'd done was humans have this crazy ability to generalize when it works for them, but then they're very specific when it works for them. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, I always put my notes in. I'm always at work on time, yada, yada, yada. And I said, yeah, but that's at work. Now, this guy was standing there. He was fat and overweight, and he was wearing a shirt, and you could tell it looked like he was 3 months pregnant, maybe 6, actually maybe 9. It looked like he was about to give birth soon. And he said, I said to him, do you perceive that you're a disciplined person outside of work? And he sort of stopped and went, oh, not really. And I said, so when you're blasting your team and telling them to be disciplined, they're looking at you and they see your discipline. So you might be disciplined as a business owner, as a sales leader, but you're not disciplined outside of work, and it shows. So what we want to do is it is so important to use that mirror effect and then develop the character that we know is going to get the results in our business or with our teams. So what you were talking about there was, and the question that you asked was around taking responsibility for things. If we use that mirror effect, then we can take responsibility for things around us. Now, I don't, look, something, there's a bomb that goes off in Moscow. I don't need to take responsibility, right? Because some people generalize and they're like, well, fuck, I'm not going to take responsibility. Yeah, okay. That's being dumb as fuck again. It's just saying that
but
in your
life.
life.
But I can take responsibility to how I react to that.
100%. So it's how we respond. It's how our team respond. There's something in psychology called the locus of control. And normally our locus of control is in that space. That's it. So if it's outside of that space, you're sitting further. I can't control you. I can't control what happens here. I can control what I do here in this space. Outside of that, I can influence. So if we can't control it, we can definitely influence it. And so a lot of people try to control friends, try to control family, try to control other people's perspectives, but the only thing that you can do is influence it. And being a great leader and walking the path first and leading by example, it's hard. Not everybody can do it. In fact, most people who say that they're leaders aren't leaders. They're leaders by title, but not leaders by action. Two completely different things. When you lead by action, people look at you and go, fuck, I want to be like you. And that's great leadership. So people who run businesses, and leaders and things like that, they really have to sit down and look at their own life and go, how do I make more people go, shit, I want to be like them? And what you do is you inspire them to tighten up and improve the things within their own life. And then that's when we start winning. That's how we build a winning team. Yeah.
Do you think, you talk about outcomes that require a pretty high standard?
Yes.
At the end of the day. But it's fair to say that what these people are aiming for, if we could climb into their mind, is an outcome that's a pretty high standard too. So the two correlate together. However, in order to change, there's that common adage, in order to change something in your life, you need to change something in your life.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people can be all the things that you described. You talk about leadership and you want to be this strong leader, and it may require change. So this person's got to morph from where they are now to develop leadership. But I think one of the struggles that people confront is that if they don't understand themselves and how they're made, they often find it difficult to be able to understand people's reactions. They have no idea then, because they don't understand themselves, they have no idea how to get the best out of somebody, or even what to look for to hire the best people. And so one of the challenges that I've seen through my career mentoring and coaching salespeople has been that people are often afraid to actually look within to try and develop an understanding of how they work, because they're frightened about what they might find. How common do you find that outcome?
I mean, it is common that people naturally don't want to look inside, because if you look at your life and you realize that you are the common problem, but you're also the common solution, That's a huge responsibility. Like when I look back at my younger years, I know that I caused a lot of shit. Like I didn't work hard at school. I was unfocused. I was undisciplined. So yeah, I was a problem, but I was also the solution. That one day I looked in the mirror and I said, why the fuck are people who are dumber than me achieving more than me?
Mhm.
Right now, most people who are probably watching this have never asked that question. Why is it that someone who is dumber than you is achieving more than you? They're doing something that you aren't doing, and they have character traits that that you're not owning.
They have knowledge that you don't have.
Yeah. They definitely have knowledge that you don't have. They also have character traits that you don't have. You know, I mean, there was a couple of things that you were talking about that really got me excited. One of them is like the most dangerous person in the world is a lazy person with massive goals, because they are the most fucking destructive people you'll ever come across, because they're always looking for shortcuts. They're always trying to pull people down because they won't put in the fucking work. That's really what it comes down to. They just don't want to work. And also they don't want to look in the mirror and take responsibility for their own bullshit.
Yet there's such joy to be derived and such, pleasure and acknowledgement, internal acknowledgement to work hard, to put in the work.
I think
that's
so.
where the jewel of the crown actually is. It's not in the outcome, it's in the journey.
100%. Because if you look at it, I believe this. I believe the future me has already got the things that I want. Because if I didn't believe that I could have them, then I wouldn't be chasing after them. So then the question is, if the future me's already got it, what character traits, what behaviors, what thought processes, how does that person control their emotions? What connections do they need, and what knowledge do they need to learn? If you encompass all of that stuff, the future me's already achieved it. I just got to keep learning those skills, developing the character traits, surrounding myself with the right people, and I will get there. And I think way too many people think that they're going to get there by just doing the same shit that they've always done, but that's their bottleneck. And a lot of business owners are hitting glass ceilings. Like there's probably a lot of them watching now. They're hitting glass ceilings and they know that they're the bottleneck in the business, but they're going to keep their only strategy is I've always worked hard. So if I just keep working harder, I'll get there.
They keep returning back to the bushfire zone and rebuilding their home.
That's all they're doing. And so the question is, what character traits are you not developing? Yeah, being a stress head will get you so far. Working your ass off will get you so far, but you've developed those skills. But now you're probably not working smart. You're not thinking through things effectively. You're probably not a good leader. You're probably a shitty communicator. When you start to develop a whole bunch of other skill sets, a whole bunch of character traits, you'll be able to get to that next level. And if we keep working on those things as we progress, life will just keep opening us up to more and more outcomes, rewards, and things that make our life more enjoyable. But we have to put in that work. And I think people want the outcome, they just don't want the work. And it's the work that creates the character.
So, Michael, look, I've enjoyed the preliminary work that you and I have done together, and I have observed your activity online. I've, attended your webinar and got a great insight into your message. To what extent is like, and the other thing I will say is this: there are very few people online who practice what they preach. I can do the talk, but don't ask me to do the walk, right? They practice what they preach. And so one of the prerequisites prior to me, working with you was I want to work with somebody who practices what he preaches. And so in listening to you now, I want to know how much of what you do is your own therapy for you.
Oh, shit. That put me on the spot. Look, I think all of us in life are trying to figure out something. By the way, I just want to clarify, I'm not Jesus. I'm not walking on water. I think there's this mentality that a coach or, anyone that you hire to work with, they're walking on water. And I think that that's such a dumb as fuck sort of way of thinking. The thing is that I'm a human like all humans, and all I want to do is wake up every day, be a little bit better, progress further, find out more about myself and develop those characters and those skills to consistently improve not only my life, but who I am as a person. And that's all I've ever really focused on. And I think that is my therapy, is if I can I don't think it's a good idea for coaches or people out there to work with people so that they can learn about themselves. Because I think there are a lot of coaches out there who are traumatized, so they get into trauma work. And then now all that happens is the word compassion actually means to suffer with others if you study the etymology of the word. And the word, so that's the word compassion. The word empathy comes from the root word empathia, which is the root word is compassion. So people who are empathetic, they bounce off of each other and it keeps taking them back to dark places within their own past that they're trying to heal from. I think that if you're trying to heal from your clients and working with them, you should be paying them, they should be paying you. So as a coach, you have to put in your own work first, get the results, get the answers, and then deliver them to others as well. And then that allows you to work with them more effectively.
Well, let me ask you, if I can just ask you a more pointed question.
Yeah.
So it's one thing to work on yourself, but what is it within you that drives you to want to share this knowledge with others? Surely that comes from and your ability to do it so well. Surely that comes from empathy and compassion.
No, not at all. It's not that I'm empathetic towards others. People can live their own lives and do whatever the fuck they want. They can suffer in their own way.
So can we replace that word with relatability?
Yeah. So the word that I like to use is understanding. I have an understanding of where people are at, and I have an understanding of what people need to execute and implement in order to get them what they want in life. That understanding allows me to help people that actually want to achieve those outcomes. There are a lot of people, like I get hundreds, if not thousands of messages a month where people are like, I want to grow my business. And you go, cool, it's going to cost you some money. And they're like, oh, I don't know, I'd rather buy a new jet ski. They won't say that directly, but they'll tell you that they don't have enough money.
They think it's so loud that you can hear it.
Yeah. Like, I've worked with tens of thousands of people, and I've been working in this industry now for 20 years and working with people for 20 years. When someone tells you that they don't have the money, they got a jet ski, a boat, they've just bought their brand new Toyota Hilux, put a bull bar on it, spotlights and all that stuff. I know their priorities in life. Their priority isn't to fix their business. Their priority isn't to invest in themselves. Their priority is to buy the next fun thing that they think is going to solve their life problems. Cool. That's good. That's great for them. But that's not the solution that they're looking for. I mean,
these people who do that, what they fail to realize is that the trajectory they're on is one of diminishing returns.
Totally.
Because they eventually get what they think they want. They want a fourth jet ski or a fifth one.
Yep.
And go, but I still feel this feeling.
100%. So I use the terminology, dumb fuck. The dumb fucks out there think that if they keep putting off decisions to make change, that life's going to keep going like this. But if you're a plane and you're soaring, you slowly, as the engines start to kick off, the plane slowly starts to drop towards Earth. Either you're moving up or you're moving down. You are not moving at the same level. And even if you think that you are, somebody else like me, I got my foot on the gas and I'm going to shoot straight past you. So your competitors right now are trying to figure out how they can gas it past you. And while you're on your new jet ski, thinking about buying your next Hilux, thinking about your next holiday and doing all that shit instead of investing in yourself and investing in the tools that you need to grow your business, they're waiting for you because they know that you are so simple that they're going to overtake you, and it's not going to be because of them. It's not going to be because of the government. It's not going to be because of some bullshit. It's because of you. And so most people just don't want to accept the fact that unless you're prepared to work on yourself, unless you're prepared to learn what you need to learn, consistently grow and invest in things, and just off on a tangent, one of my favorite sayings that I consistently reinforce with my community is that we invest in what we believe is valuable and we spend money on what we believe is valuable. Most people don't spend money on themselves in the way to improve themselves because the real fucking truth is that they don't believe that they're fucking valuable enough to do that. If you're running a company and you don't believe that you're the most valuable asset in the company, your business is fucked because it's always going to be a direct reflection of how you operate. That's as simple as I can make it. Part of my French, I got a bit too excited there,
but to that point,
I feel like headbutting people sometimes. Knock some fucking sense into them.
Michael, to that point though,
your
message, and I often use this as a metaphor when I'm talking to people about that. You've got to have an understanding about your sense of value and elevate that. I often talk to people and I tell them this story. I say, so imagine this. You own a Ferrari. or in your case, a McLaren. You own a Ferrari and you're sitting at a set of, traffic lights ahead of a freeway in front of you. And beside you is some dude in a clapped out Camry, right? Who's revving his engine, essentially signaling, hey, do you want a little drag? And you turn over and look at him and sort of give him a chuckle and go, yeah, no worries. And I often say to people, this is the metaphor of what I'm seeing in your life. And so you're in the Ferrari and you're going, Camry, beat up, look at the dents, blah, 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 yeah, no worries. And the lights change to green. And so you both take off. And initially, you're speeding ahead. You haven't even got your pedal to the metal. It's just an easy one. But then I say, imagine this happen. All of a sudden, this Camry goes zoom straight past you. And you push harder and harder on the throttle, and the Camry is just leaving you for dead. And you think to yourself, but fuck, I'm a Ferrari. And I often say to people, so what do you think the problem is if you're the Ferrari and that's happening from all the businesses and competition around you? They're the Camry. Why do you think that's happening? And they come up with different answers, but the true answer is there's shit in the engine. And unless you get rid of that shit, you will never perform as the Ferrari, no matter what you think. So my question to you is, what do you think is the common shit in people's engines if they're a Ferrari?
Well, can I use a different analogy, which is the same line? So if you go, let's say I take my McLaren to the racetrack and I go out there. Yeah, I've got the best fucking vehicle. But then someone rocks up in a little Toyota Corolla and they've worked on the engine and everything like that. And it's nowhere near as quick. On the straights, you can blast past them. But as soon as you get to some corners that are a bit more difficult, the next second the Toyota Corolla goes blasting past. What's the difference? The fucking driver and the skill set. So in business and in life, I think when times are easy, the one who's got the best vehicle will just fly past, right? And that happens all the time in business. Someone just starts at the right time with and a market's going up and they're just there. And you watch them, they'll just blast straight past you and you go, fuck, how is it that I've been working for 10 years and they're making more money than me? Well, they do until they get to the first corner. And then when there's a couple more corners, you watch them, they just go straight off the edge. The next second they're in grass and everything like that. So your ability to drive the vehicle that you have is key. And so as a business owner, it doesn't matter whether it's good economic times or bad economic times. It makes no difference because it's the driver. And we saw this through COVID, right? That there were a bunch of cafes and things like that just within a month, they just closed the doors too hard. Well, yeah, because it's easy to run a cafe when everything's going well, when everyone's spending cash and you're in the right area and everything. But as soon as there's a little bit of difficulty, bang, they just shut the doors. And then over time, more and more shut. But there were still ones that were making shitloads of money. And what happened was the more that closed their doors, the more money the good ones made because all the competition started getting taken away. And I think it's the same as in business as well. There are so many people, like right now in the trade-based industry, there's been such a backlog of housing that you can be a tradie and you can essentially just shit money, right? It comes out of your ass. You don't even have to work that hard and there's money. But that's an industry that's going to be a big bubble. Eventually that industry is going to downsize.
Not everything lasts forever.
Yep. You'll find that the good builders and everything like that, they will stay, but they have good fundamentals. They have good leadership, good management, an owner that understands, a person who's developing their skills through both the good times and the bad times. So it's all of those things that make the massive difference. It's, are you doing the right things when everything's going well? And are you doing the right things when everything's not going well? What you'll find is that most people, when everything's going well, they become complacent and lazy and they just go, oh, well, of course I'm a fucking genius because everyone looks good in a upward trending market. And we saw this in like cryptocurrency and things like that, right? Everyone's a rocket scientist and a financial guru when the market's just pumping in one direction. But then what happens when the curves and the bends and the twists kick in? You start to see who are the experienced people or not. And another favorite quote was one from Warren Buffett. It's not until the tide goes out that you find out who's swimming naked.
Absolutely.
And I believe that in business and life. The more you develop skills in the good times, the better skilled you're going to be in the harder times. And it's the hard times that create the characteristics in the character.
And so what you're saying, back to my analogy, the shit in people's engines are their mindset,
Yep.
their attitude towards difficult situations,
Yep. The characteristics that they're building. Yep.
and their capacity to lead by example.
Yep. That's spot on.
And they're the things that get in people's way all the time.
Yep. It comes back to that initial framework, right? Like clarity. If you know what you want and you know what you're trying to achieve and you have clarity around your bottlenecks and the problems and the things that are keeping you stuck, or at least if you're moving towards the next level, you already know what that glass ceiling is going to be. So you've got to start to work on the skill sets to get through that before you get there. Then you have standards. So if you don't have high standards, then it's hard to have a high standard life. Some people just want a cruisy life. That's completely fine. But I assume that the people who are listening to podcasts like this, they've got high standards. They want more out of themselves. They want to better themselves. They want to push harder in life. They're the people who come to me and go, my family and friends don't understand. No shit, they don't understand because they're not fucking you. You're wired differently. I'm wired. My family tell me all the time I work too much, that I push too hard. Oh, you're traveling again. Oh, you're still working. Oh, you're up late. Yeah, no shit, because I have high standards. But I hop on a plane, I fly business class over the other side of the world, I stay in nice hotels, I drive nice cars, and they go, well, you're lucky.
Yes.
They don't correlate the luck between the work. That's people that don't get it.
I often like to play with people who, I get the same thing. Oh, you work too hard. Yeah. And I go, okay, so how hard should I work? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just go, well, okay, so what's your standard? And where people go, you're lucky, they do not understand that sure luck's got a bit to do with it, but I had to front up when you were asleep, when you were partying, whatever, to intercept that luck and take advantage of it.
Yep.
Now, Michael, this has been a great chat with you, and I've learned a lot through your insights. One of the ways that you get your message out to people are your weekly or bi-weekly webinars, where you deconstruct a lot of these scenarios and you show business owners and entrepreneurial characters the actual steps to move forward. And so people listening to these podcasts, if they want to get and learn more about what you do and learn from the skills that you've acquired through your own journey, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah. So you can jump on the webinars. They're free. You can jump in there, check them out. The one that we're working on at the moment is all about how to hire and retain A-grade staff. I think one of the things that most people struggle with at the moment is making sure that they're surrounding themselves with the right people, which is, by the way, crucial. If you're growing a business, you have to make sure you surround yourself with the right people, and you've got to bring on the right people in the right roles. And if you're doing that well, you've got to then be able to retain them. I think most business owners are stressed and are super frustrated because they hire what they think they should. Like I said before, I hired Sally, who's my sister's cousin's brother.
She's really good at coloring in, and she's doing all my thumbnails for my social media.
Yep. And then she's also doing the finances as well, because she sort of does, she did, third grade math. So it just, they hire, like the hiring strategy of most businesses is so fucking bad. But it's because business owners aren't trained how to do it, right? It's one of those skills. And a lot of business owners are really frustrated because they don't know how to hire properly. They don't know how to interview properly. They don't know how to onboard someone correctly and what that should look like to bring them into the culture, so that within, the first 30 to 90 days, that person is running full steam ahead. If you don't do that, the cost blowouts are ridiculous. Like if you're hiring a $100,000 staff member and within 6 months you realize that they are shit and the wrong staff member, you haven't just lost 50 grand. You've lost 50 grand plus all the training, the development, the tax, the legal, the accounting, and everything that goes on top of their wage, plus.
And the opportunity cost of not having the right person.
Oh, totally. And then if you've got someone out on the tools like most tradies do, let's say someone's on 100 grand a year with them, they get the work van, they get the tools included, all of that. And then they go out to the customer's site. They're there, they do a shitty job, they get a bad reputation. That may have cost them like 50 grand is the wage that's gone out of the bank. But you've also got to add tax on top of that because it's after tax dollars. they may have lost 100, 150 grand. And it depends on how bad the reputational damage is. And there are a lot of businesses out there who are getting a bad reputation by having ineffective and inefficient staff. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to create something where, I went through that same process prior to COVID. And I had to spend, God knows how much, tens of thousands of dollars learning how to hire the right people by bringing consultants, by studying, by learning as much as I could to make sure that we could hire the right staff. And since then, our profit has gone through the roof. We just had our biggest year on record, and I have a third of the staff as what I had previously when we hit that last record. It's just because they're more effective, more efficient, more aligned, better leadership, better quality management, better quality reporting, and all those sort of things. And I was able to go away for 6 weeks and the business didn't shit itself like what used to happen many, many years ago, which is a fear of most business owners. If I go away, I get like 48 messages in the first hour, business owners out there will understand. So we put together the webinar just because I really wanted to help those types of business owners who need to learn how to hire, how to retain people, but also how to let them go if you've got the wrong people, how to do it without ending up, with work cover claims or, being taken to court. It's in this day and age, it's very, very hard to get rid of people if they're not performing. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, as I was saying, Michael, it's been tremendous catching up with you. And if you'd like to learn more, you can find Michael on all the social channels. He goes by the moniker of Michael Mojo. Interestingly, the number plate on his car is Mr. Mojo. But if you're struggling and you want to get back your mojo, tune into his socials, jump on his webinar. I've sat through the webinar and gained a tremendous amount from listening to some of these models and constructs that if you embrace, the only guarantee is you will not stay in the place you are and you'll progress forward. Michael, tremendous catching up with you. Thanks for being on the podcast.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.